afternoon and welcome to Conversations with Anglicans. Conversations with Anglicans is aired every Saturday on the Anglican Outlook page. And today we have Michelle Dowrich. Now, I could say Michelle is from St. Paul's Anglican Church, but I know that is not going to be the truth because Michelle is all over the Anglican diocese. So Michelle, introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is certainly my pleasure to be here with you, Pat. Lord knows we've gone through so much to make this happen. So I am Michelle, humble, quiet Michelle. I belong to St. Paul's Parish, San Fernando, where I've been baptized, where I've grown up, where I've done almost everything. My entire family has been members of the St. Paul's Anglican Church. But because of my music, I have gone all over the diocese. And I willingly share my skill and my talent in music with anyone who asks. So
tell us what you do with your music. What exactly do you do in the Anglican diocese with your music? Because most of the time, people are thinking about Conversations with Anglican. We're doing a lot of the clergies, but they're not used to getting this side of it. So could you tell us about that?
Basically, because I'm a musician, I'm a singer first. I don't call myself a pianist. I just tell people I play for church. I literally play for services in a number of parishes. So I can tell you that my month, except for a fifth Sunday, it's pretty booked because on the first Sunday of the month, I'm at Patricia in the district by Bishop Royal, Dublin. So I play there on a first Sunday. On a first Saturday, third Saturday, and fourth Sunday, I'm at St. Paul's, home parish. On a second Sunday, I'm at St. Peter's in Gasparilla. And on a third Sunday, I'm at St. Barnabas by Archdeacon Emeritus Steve West.
So you're all over the South.
Yeah, I'm all over. And I mean, I honestly, I could remain at St. Paul's every Sunday, but there's another organist there too. And I really don't think it's fair that there are two organists sitting on the same service when there's a church that needs help.
Exactly.
So I offer my services elsewhere.
Okay. So how did you get into the music industry?
That's so funny. It's a really funny story. I started music lessons at age 11. I never had a clue that I would get involved in it, although both my parents sang in the church choir, and my mother also sang with a couple community choirs in San Fernando. San Fernando Ladies Choral, and then the Southerners Choir. And she sang at music festivals, and every festival, every competition, being the first child of 6, I would willingly be dragged along. In my 11th year of existence, one of my aunts came home from the States, and she always had a habit where she will take a couple nieces or nephews along with her going to look for everybody scenarios. And in that year, 1976, I remember it vividly, that was my year to tag along with her, be pulled by every friend, auntie, tanty, you name it. And one of her visits was to her old music teacher, Mrs. Evangeline Hutchinson, a very tiny, wiry, little old lady with pointy fingers who gave music lessons, piano lessons, but she also played in the Catholic church on the promenade in San Fernando. So my aunt went there and looked for her. And in the conversation, my aunt spun around and said, "But why aren't you taking music lessons?" I don't know. My parents never thought of it. No one ever did. No, so I wasn't sent. So she went home that afternoon and demanded of my parents that I will be starting piano lessons. Needless to say, she wasn't paying for it, right? So September came, I passed common entrance. I went to St. Joseph's Convent, San Fernando. And that very first week of secondary school, I started piano lessons until Mrs. Hutchinson passed away. And at her funeral, I vowed that I will continue my music because she was really a fun person to be around. we found ourselves being the older ones, helping all the young ones. If she's training somebody for something else, we would all gather around the piano. She was a beautiful teacher. And I think that was my first inspiration to want to go into music or to do more with my music as well as teach just like her. When I finished secondary school, because I also did A-levels at St. Joseph's Convent, Canon Nolly Clark was at St. Paul's during those years. He was the parish priest, the rector. And on leaving school, he looked at me one afternoon because we always had a vibrant youth community at St. Paul's once he was around. So we'd always be in and out of the house. And one day he just looked at me and said, "So what are you doing now that you finished school?" I said, "Well, nothing." I really had no aspirations to go on to university or to do anything fantastic. I was just a homebody person. He said, "Well, I think you ought to go and teach." I said, "Well, okay, what should I do?" And just like that, I went and I signed up to teach, and I've been teaching since 1985. But just to backtrack, when I was around 16, the church under Canon Clark had started what we call the St. Paul's Folk Choir. And that was the beginning of the folk choir movement in the country, more or less. And so we were one of the first Anglican churches, I believe, to start one. It was under Harry Scantlebury, who eventually was a lay minister. He's passed away now. And Harry looked at me one day and said, "You need to join the choir." I said, "Great." So I joined the choir and I was singing, but the organist at the time for the choir was about to migrate. So he came to me and he said, "You take piano lessons, you need to start playing for church. And if you don't play, I'll make sure you join the senior choir." Now, what 16, 17-year-old wants to join a choir of older people? So, and I grew up like that. The elders tell you to do something, probably you ask how high, how far, but you do it. So I joined and I started to play for church. I can remember exactly how nervous I was that first day I played, or the first couple of services, because we had 4th Sunday services. And that's how since then, 4th Sunday services at St. Paul's are youth services. And I remember playing and I would butcher the music. I'd be so nervous, my hands would be shaking and I would make a million mistakes. But I persevered. And then I graduated to the pipe organ somewhat when the organist fell ill. And Canon Clark called me that afternoon, 3 o'clock a Saturday afternoon. The man was hospitalized and Canon Clark called and said, "Mr. Hoyt is in the hospital. Find somebody to teach you to play that pipe organ, but you're playing for church from tomorrow."
How
So
different.
I found one of my old music teachers who came. She said, "A keyboard is a keyboard. Pull this out, pull that out." And it was through that year, doing funerals and playing for services, that I have mastered playing the organ. And that's where it all started.
So I know at the Holy Trinity Cathedral and at your church, you all have that pipe organ. Can you tell us, and All Saints also. So can you tell us a little about the difference between a regular organ and a pipe organ? Because I see people using their feet and they're doing all these things and they're playing with their hands. So I'm like, you have to be really coordinated to do that. So could you tell us a little about that?
The pipe organ is considered the king of all instruments. It is one instrument in which you can find the tones for several instruments.
Okay.
And of course, in the pipe organ, if you look at the top, the reason it's called a pipe organ is because we have all these pipes at the beginning, at the top of it. And the pipes are in different sizes and lengths. There are big, fat ones, and there are some tiny ones on the inside. The pipe organ is also made up of I'm tempted to say two smaller organs on the inside, the swell, and then there's the grate. And then, of course, the pedal board underneath. If you look at the side of the keyboards, because the majority of organs will have at least 2 manuals, meaning 2 keyboards. There are some that have 3, 4, and many others. But if you look at the top, you will, at the sides, you will see some knobs that are pulled out and pushed in. Those are called stops. And each stop represents a different instrument. So you have reeds and clarinets, etc. So you can adjust depending on the size of the organ and the number of stops and pipes. You can adjust the stops to give a number of different tones, as well as vary the volume that you get out of the organ.
Wow.
So a good organist will, a real organist will be able to manipulate both keyboards as well as use their feet on the pedal board. And your pedal board normally will play the bass of it. So if you listen to a really good Bach piece, you will be amazed to know one man is doing all that music, because it's two hands and 2 feet. So it's like 4 separate limbs really getting down. My biggest regret, though, is that I did not take formal organ lessons. So whatever I have learned, it has been an OJT session for me.
Okay, but I guess you do a fantastic job on OJT. That's great to hear. That
try.
is amazing.
Sorry to cut you.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I do keep in mind when I'm playing, because I sing, and I'm proud of my singing, I love my singing, because I sing, I think that helps me to manipulate my playing better, because I'm not playing from a showmanship point of view. It's not a performance. I play so that people understand what they hear, and I can help them sing better.
Okay.
So if you ever notice that while I'm playing, if I'm playing a piece of music that's probably unfamiliar, it's a tune I cannot find another, a replacement for, a substitution for, and I have to play a tune for a hymn that I'm sure if I don't know it, maybe nobody else knows it. I take my time, I play strictly melody, and as the congregation gets comfortable, then I start to add the rest of the accompaniment. So I don't play from a performance standpoint. I play from a singing standpoint, because I play for people to understand what they're singing. You mustn't have problems singing in church.
And this is great, because not only do we have a musician, we have somebody who sings also, and sing very well. So tell us about the joys or challenges of doing what you do with the music industry that you do at the church.
The joys. The joys come when people enjoy the service. When people can come to you afterwards, and as I said, I don't do this from a performance point of view. So I don't want anybody to think that this is the vain part of me getting in the way. It's not that. I believe that, as I said a while ago, if you are in church, I am here to help the worship experience.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I need to make it enjoyable and comfortable to the stranger who is in the audience, in the congregation. I love knowing, and this happened like last Sunday, when Easter Day, when I played for church at St. Paul's. I got a message a few days later saying that there was someone who came to church because we had a number of baptisms. They hadn't been to church for a long time. And the person texted their family to say they enjoyed the service so much that they are going to make an effort to come more regularly and bring their husband.
Wow, fantastic.
That for me is the ice cream on the cake.
Definitely.
I want to know that anyone who sits has a good time in church, enjoys it from beginning to end. And saying that now, the challenge is getting everybody, all the players in a service. Because, I mean, this is how we treat a performance. And while I'm not saying that church is a performance, but if you look at the elements of what go into a performance, then you will understand where I'm coming from. If all the players in a church service are on the same page, we'd have it made almost every time. But so therefore, my challenge is for the powers that be, and I may be so bold to say, well, our clergy, whoever is in charge of our service, sometimes some of them don't understand how important all the arms of a service, all the aspects of a service are. So they get ready, as far as they're concerned, they're doing the mass and they're preaching. But what about the music?
Yeah.
Music is equally important because we could help make or break your service. And if we are all not on the same page, it becomes very challenging. And I've had more than my fair share of some of those challenges.
And you can see it in the congregation's face when they're thoroughly enjoying the music. You can see people starting to clap their hands. They're singing louder, even though like people like me who cannot sing, you could see them really enjoying the music. So that being said, recently on the Holy Trinity Cathedral, in one of the morning services, I heard a piece from Michelle Dowrich, accompanied by other singers. Could you tell us about that?
Well, since COVID began and we've had to go to the online platform for a number of our programs, especially the TTT recorded mass that is aired on a Sunday morning at 11, we have been in a bind. I'm saying we, meaning the church and whoever is behind the organization. We've been in a bind for some time now, but COVID sort of exacerbated that, to find locally recorded music. So a lot of the hymns that have been aired in these services have been YouTube hymns. And we have an issue sometimes with copyright and, dare I say, the cultural slant of those hymns and the voices.
Exactly.
So while the hymns are beautifully sung with lovely descants, the accent behind the hymns, to me, puts us off a bit. I'm not saying we have it right at the moment, but a few of us in South, and I can name Nigel Redhead from St. Stephen's. He's a guitarist, but he's into the technological aspects now of, well, technology and recording for music. Wayne Williams, who plays the keyboard at St. Stephen's, Nigel's son Dengel, who is also into live streaming and more technological things. He's into computers. Nigel threw that thought out to me about putting a group together to record music, and I jumped at that opportunity. So we've been trying in South with a handful of persons to come together to do some vocals on some recordings. The organ recording you would have heard would have been done by Rico Cummings of Trinity Cathedral, because their organ is just fantastic. So Nigel journeyed to Port of Spain, recorded about 10 plus hymns from Rico, and then came back to San Fernando and at St. Paul's and at St. Barnabas. We used both venues. We just came together and sang. We still have a lot of tightening up to do and many more hymns, because 10 out of 800 plus is very tiny. So that's one of our projects, trying to do locally recorded vocals on our hymns, so that for the online platform, we have music available, as well as for churches that don't have accompaniments.
Right.
And we could provide the vocals.
And what I heard, you know, the acoustics and everything was great. I was flabbergasted, to tell the honest truth. When I heard it, I was like, there's Michelle. I can hear Michelle distinctively. And I was like, when did she do that recording? So I am so happy to hear this. So are y'all going to make like albums, or y'all are going to try and sing all the songs, the 800 and something songs in the hymn book, or most of them?
Right now, I can say we're going to do some of them. We don't know, we have no time limit on this project, and it's just for us to make the time and get together and choose more music as the seasons go by to make them available.
So is this open to anybody who wants to join and be with y'all to do that? Or right now y'all are just concentrating on the people in the South, and then maybe you might have people from the other parishes?
Good question. I would really like to involve a few more persons. Now, we have to keep in mind, because of the COVID protocols, we cannot have a big choir of 20, 30, 40 persons, which is why we're probably right now at around 5 or 6 persons, if I think of everybody, but all 5 or 6 have never gotten together in one session. We're also looking for variety in voices, because we don't only want the music to be soprano-led.
Right.
Let's bring back the soprano, alto, tenor, bass.
Mm-hmm.
The third part of this is that I realize that we need to rehearse. We need to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the singer in me is going to come out, because if you are singing, we all need to sing with the same effort, with the same phrasing, breathing properly, and singing properly. So we cannot go forward at immediately just coming together. Oh, you know the same, you know that same. Okay, we're going to do this. 3, 4, sing. No. We need to work better at that. So we are going to institute some kind of rehearsal where we can make people sing better, and therefore the overall recording will be of a better quality.
So the base for this would be the St. Paul's Anglican Church, or y'all will travel to different areas? Oh, okay. You will go
well,
wherever.
it all depends. It all
Mm-hmm.
depends. We've gone to St. Paul's because it was central.
Right.
We went to St. Barnabas because I wasn't sure to show up at that rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of the main persons were at St. Barnabas. So we are flexible.
Okay. So you
As I said, we still have some more conversations to take place.
Right. So you talked earlier about COVID and COVID affecting you all. How has this affected your performance during services? I've seen you on Sunday Worship Live. How has that affected you being able to be a performer and feel good about it?
When it comes to church, I'm a sad camper. I hate, and I say this to anybody who wants to hear it, I hate singing in a mask. I really hate singing in a mask. One of the things we tried to do at St. Paul's was build some barriers around the choir. Mm-hmm. But of course, the word came where we still need to wear our masks. So that has been one negative effect. I am not sure if the creator of COVID has something against choral singing, but singing to me is one of the activities that is seriously, strongly affected by COVID because of the aerosols that come with singing. There are a lot more than just normal speaking.
Right.
For me, it means that I have not been singing as much, and definitely not publicly. I have probably been singing a little less in church. So I focus more on the playing, and being a performer, there's not much of that going around. Some of it may have been like online, but nothing major. So COVID has really dampened my singing for the last year or so.
Okay. So what do you do? Do you still teach music? What do you do now? You said you started to teach music. Do you still do that?
Privately, yes. I have been a teacher in the government system for the last about 34 years. I've been in the teaching service for the last 35 years. Last November made it 35. So yes, really? I'm ready to retire.
Are you sure you're counting correctly?
Sometimes I wonder myself. I spent 17 years in the primary school. I was based at St. Fernando Girls Anglican. That was my alma mater. Okay. And St. Joseph's Convent, St. Fernando was my other alma mater. And I went back there and I taught for 17 years. I think I started to get a little bored. And of course, with retirement on a not too far horizon, I decided, let's make a change. And God provided the opportunity to get into curriculum. So now I belong to the Curriculum Planning and Development Division of the Ministry of Education. Quite a mouthful. Yes. We're based at RCLRC in Couva, McBean Couva. That's where my office is. But for the last year, we've been more or less working from home and going into the office as is needed.
Mhm.
So with COVID, because I've been out of school also, I have not been physically teaching on a daily basis.
Mhm.
But when I have to do workshops, etc., it is some form of teaching, and I started back my private lessons at home.
Mhm.
So I'm shifting more into just doing vocal lessons, vocal training at home with children from as early as 6 years to about, I have some CXC students at the moment.
Okay.
So yeah, I keep the teaching going because of that.
Do you do any of those? I'm just curious, online, like on Zoom, because I would like to know how does that work? Okay.
No.
No, nothing on Zoom. Okay.
I did have one student,
Uh-huh.
one of my vocal students, because of COVID, was living way down in Mayaro. Their
Mhm.
family just moved to Mayaro during COVID to be safe. And because of that, and they wanted to continue the vocal lessons, we tried the online thing. I hated every moment of it, simply because I'm singing to teach you. You are singing in response to my teaching, but there's a delay. There's
Right.
no way we can sing simultaneously without the delay. And I got fed up of it very early. And I was so happy when the mother came on one day and said, Miss Dowrich, this is not working. I said, but I told you that. I would have preferred, I said, whenever you are coming to San Fernando, let me know and I will come by.
Okay.
And thank God that fell into place. So I have become a roving music teacher now. So I have a couple students where I go home to them
Okay.
and we do our sessions one-on-one. That was really one of the biggest changes that COVID made when I started back teaching privately.
Mm-hmm.
I have reduced my numbers to one at a time, or if I have two, it means the two of them are doing the same kind of work at the same time, but no 3, 4, and 10 persons in my house coming and going as before. No, less time.
Okay. So what would you like to see in the Anglican diocese? What would you like to see the music ministry go to? I know you talked about having local people singing because of copyright and everything. What you personally would like to see happen?
Two things. I would like to see a plan in place for musicians
Mm-hmm.
within the Anglican Church.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have a plan. And this is a spin-off from another point, some unity within the church, where everybody is on one page. We may have, how many? It's 31 parishes, I think, so many. But every parish does something way different from the other one. And while variety is the spice of life, I think it kind of shows up in a sense, a bit of some of our, we're not very cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like everybody doesn't follow the same pattern except when they're saying mass and saying prayers. But it's like the management of the churches seem to be in flux from one church to another.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that based on the fact that I move from church to church to church to play. And therefore I see a different a different style in my home parish as compared to when I go to another one to another one. When it comes to the music in the Anglican Church has always been such a fantastic tradition. But if we don't pay it any attention, we either lose it, we butcher it, forgive my language, we butcher it, or we're just going to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many other music books that have come into our worship. So our ancient and modern and the CPWI committee did try very hard to modernize the language of the ancient and modern hymns.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much music out there now that it's so easy to embrace the gospel songs and throw out our CPWI. And I'm not advocating throwing out anything, but I am looking for a plan. We have 3 main churches with pipe organs. That means there are a number of churches that don't really have pipe organs. You were
Right.
asking earlier about the differences. There are only 3 churches that have solid, traditionally made pipe organs. A couple of the churches have bought the more electronic, modern version of the pipe organ. So it's an organ without all the pipes, right? It just relies on big speakers. But it also has those knobs that where you can get the different organ tones and the reeds and the clarinets, etc., in the sound of the organ itself. Then you have churches who will go and buy keyboards for $4,000, $5,000 because that's what they could manage, right? That's what they could use. But some of them don't have people to play. Should it only be left up to the parish to source musicians? I think yes, but the diocese can have a plan for training and for sending people off to train. I remember when Father West was in Holy Savior, he sent one of his organists to Barbados to train. That was so fantastic and commendable. But that was not a diocesan plan, that was a parish plan and effected by the parish. How many other parishes are doing that? I know the Northeast region had a music scholarship program going where they would invite persons to apply, they would go through and then they would select a few and they train them over a period of time and see how they've grown, and they had to be active in their parish. But that's Northeast, that's not diocesan. And that's one of the things I would really like to see, that we have a plan for music so that we can have musicians, we can rear musicians. Now, being a musician is not an easy task. Some people are blessed. I wasn't blessed to know to play by ear. I can't play by ear. Well, apart from a couple choruses. But I can't really play. I can't hear a song on the radio and come back and play it. No. I can read because I learned traditionally. So put a piece of music in front of me, I could sight read like wind and play it back. So we need a plan for that. The second thing is we need to train our singers within our church. I don't wish to sound harsh, but because we are now online and everything is being streamed, we are under greater scrutiny.
Yes.
What would have hidden in your church Sunday to Sunday, because it's only seen in your church by the persons who visit there, everything is now open to the whole wide world. Get it right. And I'm a huge advocate for a pleasing tone. I believe everybody could sing. Some people could sing better than others, right? But it all comes with some training, and I'm bold enough to say from clergy to the lowest lay person in your congregation. So if you are going to sing for a service, that especially as the one that's being streamed, do it properly, do it right. Get some objective feedback as to what you're going to sound like.
Okay. I just have to say,
I think we need a lot of training.
I just have to say, I know you're the musician, but everybody can sing. I am telling you, just from me, not everybody can sing. They might be able to. I am telling you, you do not want to hear me sing.
If you can speak, you can sing.
Okay. So you said you're going to retire. My question now is, when you retire, would you like to head up something like this for the Anglican diocese? I'm putting it out there.
Well, I don't know if I need to wait till I retire. Hopefully I might have more time, but I have become a very busy animal. I never stay put. I hardly ever am doing nothing. So that's one of the things my children could say against me. I'm always running around doing something. Yes, extremely busy. I would like to do something in terms of training, helping train singers, because we're online. Let's say we have ordinations now that are being streamed. We have our church services that are being brought over on 11 o'clock TTT. In some of those cases, we actually have live music, not just pre-recorded anymore, or combination of live and pre-recorded. Yeah, I would like to, I don't know about heading anything, but I would like to assist in helping make the singing a little bit better, if not much better than we have been doing it at the moment. And for me, that's one of the ways that I just want to pass on some of what I can do. The saddest thing I think in a person's life is to know that you've done something so well for all your life, and the day the Lord calls you home and you exit the space, all people, I don't want people just to remember me and say, yeah, you know, Michelle used to sing real good. It stayed with Michelle. I want to be able to pass on something.
You want to
Just
have
like
that
a
legacy.
teacher, just like a teacher who revels in the small feedback that she hears, that you may hear when your students say, yeah, your classes were some of the best classes I ever had. You were one of my favorite teachers. At least you know you made an impact. You left something, a legacy behind, you know? And I want to be able to do that in the church. I don't want to be playing forever, but I want to know that before I leave, I would have taught something that somebody else could pass on and carry on.
Okay. I'm not going to give out your phone number or anything, but when people see this recording, I hope that they start calling you immediately to go ahead.
And I hope the Lord makes the 8th day that I can manage the time better and be able to help other people.
Oh, you'll be able to manage the time. Trust me, you will, because you can tell from the way you speak, you love what you do and you're so passionate about it. So there's no way that this cannot come to fruition. So let us know about you sing, you play. What are two of your favorite hymns?
Oh, Jesus, I have promised.
Okay.
That is chief. And the other one, I wrote them down. The other one is Angel Voices Ever Singing.
Okay. So which one of them would you honor us this evening by singing?
Wow.
And no accompaniment because
none
I
at
can't
all.
play or anything.
Acapella.
Acapella all the way.
I can do Angel Voices Ever Singing.
Okay, well, let's hear you.
So I'm going to do 2 verses, the first and the third verse, because I think because I'm into music and art, the third verse totally addresses that, and that's why I love that hymn. Apart from the high notes in the song, right? I love music that just varies.
Okay.
So it goes. Angel voices ever singing round thy throne of light. Angel harps forever ringing, rest not day nor night. Thousands only live to bless thee and confess thee, Lord of might. Yea, we know that thou rejoicest o'er each work of thine. Thou didst ears and hands and voices for thy praise design. Craftsman's art and music's measure for thy pleasure all combine.
If you saw your face, the expression when you sang that, it was fantastic.
And that's because I want to be, I pray that I could be one of those voices singing around the throne of light. Honestly speaking, I would love to be just in the presence of God on his throne, just singing all day, all the time. That's why I love this song, because that speaks to me, you know, my goal for of the afterlife.
Wow. That is a fantastic note to end with. Is there anything else you would like us to know, Michelle?
I think one of the things maybe I could highlight that people may not really know about me is that I'm an introvert.
Really?
Yeah. But I'm very passionate about what I do, and I tend to be very committed. So I love teaching. I love to do what I do, but if you really look for me, I'm hiding somewhere. I've disappeared, or I'm in a corner just watching everything quietly. But once you talk about teaching and music, I will step into my space
Right.
and deliver what I need to deliver quite passionately.
And I think Sunday Worship Live, you've been exposed to a lot of people because you're there very often with a lot of different churches, especially in the South. So people know who you are now, whether you're introvert or not, they know who you are. So I want to thank you so very much, Michelle, for spending the time with us and explaining so many things about the music industry. You've been listening to Conversation with Anglicans. It's aired at 5 p.m. every Saturday on the Anglican Outlook page. And today we had the pleasure of having Michelle Dowrich. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. Have a blessed
You're
evening.
very welcome, Pat. Thank you for having me. It's quite different for me to be talking about myself, but thank you. It has been a pleasure. And I say God bless to you and all the other presenters who are doing this particular platform. Good
Okay.
luck.
Okay. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
You too, my dear.
Okay.